Auburn signs absolutely nobody on National Signing Day. And guess what? It's no big deal. It doesn't matter. On today's episode of the Auburn Daily Show, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. What in the world happened to National Signing Day, and how did it just get completely trumped by early signing day and really the transfer portal as well? Pat Barnes joins us as always, Auburn Daily Show favorite guest, Auburn's man of mystery. He's back with us as always to drop some pretty insightful recruiting intel, kind of like a big picture what happened to signing day, as well as what was Auburn's strategy of this whole thing, and why did they not grab just some maybe last minute high schooler diamonds in the rough. Talk about all that on today's episode. Before we get started, though, want to thank today's show sponsor, Plains Coffee. You see the link right here. Use promo code Auburn. The best coffee. It is fresh. It ships right to your home, office, wherever. You get that fresh ground coffee. No more than 24 hours freshly ground. Not like what you can get at the store. It's been there forever. They get all sorts of flavors. You get all sorts of different types of roast, the medium, dark. Maybe you want some flavor, some caramel. In my case, that's Cinnabon. It is the bomb. Of course, you can always get tea if coffee's not your thing. Check out plainscoffee.com. Use that promo code Auburn for 10% off on the order. And of course, there is always free shipping. I want to thank them as always for supporting the show. So, Pat, let's get right into it. Yesterday was National Signing Day. I think everybody, myself included, forgot. Did you remember? Did we bat an eye at National Signing Day?
No, it didn't even occur to me until I think last night when I saw somebody tweeting about Ryan Williams officially signing with Alabama that it was actually late National Signing Day. And this is a good thing that I forgot as opposed to 2 years ago when it was I was well aware it was National Signing Day and we still didn't sign anybody, but that's because we just struck out on like 5 players. So I'd rather just go ahead and sign everybody in December and not have to worry about January than the other way around.
Yeah, so brief history lesson. We're going to spend a lot of time on this, but that was we'll call it what it was, the meltdown with Auburn, the National Signing Day dilemma that was really probably one of the final nails in Brian Harson's coffin at his time here at Auburn, where Auburn had a few guys left on the board. They didn't end up getting them. And like I said, a lot of ensuing drama happened after the fact. Now, why this is not a big deal comparatively to then is because now you actually have a 21 signee class that is ranked 8th in the nation.
Correct. On three, it is ranked 8th overall.
So a little bit better situation than where they were then. So it's funny because it's like early signing day and this is National Signing Day, where really it should just be called signing day and late signing day. The semantics of this, I think, is just all sorts out of whack. And just a little brief background, folks, for folks out there listening. Our guy Pat Barnes here, this was his Christmas. You took off work for National Signing Day back in the day. Like,
Well,
this was not a
I wasn't working yet, but I was in grad school, and I did skip entire days of class for grad school to see what was going on signing day. So yes, I did take off of something important.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some listeners out there that were dedicated to the recruiting grind that, like, you had to be off work. You had to be following the boards. You had to be on social media. Once upon a time, pre-Gus end of his tenure, this was something to be excited about. Now, this was before early signing day really took over. So that's kind of what it was. And it seems to be that they had their strategy taken care of. You didn't really hear a lot of chatter from anybody on National Signing Day. Nothing that I saw, at least. Most of all your highly ranked players had already had destinations. Some guys jumped around. I believe Fat Burdett, who had originally been committed to Auburn, jumped to Missouri, ended up signing with Houston, from what I
Yeah,
had heard.
I don't even know if he ever committed to Missouri. I think he was flirting with Missouri. I don't think they ended up taking him either. So
Okay,
he's Houston bound.
I could have sworn I saw a graphic, but they're throwing graphics out for everybody. Just hey man, I might be committing to these 12 schools have graphics ready, so you just never know. I'm gonna just put it out there. I think graphics culture is getting out of hand, and I'm just gonna
Agreed.
say we need to just throw this out there. Ryan Williams might have saved Hayes Fawcett's life because the Gumps were after him when he was just like decommitting, going here, going there. I mean, they were. I think he was need to be in witness protection, and he got on their good graces with that one. But man, they were coming after him. So point being, graphics culture, it's gotten a little too far out of hand. But alas, that was pretty much it. There was not a lot of action on National Signing Day. Just about why that may be. I think it's a transfer portal. I mean, well, let me phrase that. After an early signing day, I think it's a lot to do with the transfer portal. And I think what's happening here is rather than, hey, we're going to get a low 3-star, we're going to get a diamond in the rough, we're going to get a guy from a small high school that might have a little bit more of the talent and athleticism develop at this level. It says, let's get a little bit more of a proven commodity and snag a guy who gets in the portal who's at least proven what they can do at the college level. Agree or disagree?
I agree in part with that. I do think that is playing a role, and it makes sense when you get to these transfer portal players versus a 3-star. You probably have a better chance of hitting on the portal player that's already proven some production on the college level. So that would make sense to me. I honestly think it's just more the fact that these schools are trying to get all their players in December as early as they possibly can. I think that's probably the biggest factor here. I mean, the earlier you get them signed, the less time they have to change their mind, go somewhere else. You don't know what happens with assistant coaches. They're coming and going, like you saw with Jeremy Garrett. Makes you wonder what would have happened to our defensive line class had Jeremy Garrett left in early December as opposed to early February. So I think a lot more of it just has to do with they want these guys in as quickly as possible.
And here's another thing here. Do you think that we're seeing more guys that are enrolling early in January than we used to?
Yes, and I think a lot of it has to do with it's just like it's the specialization of culture in general. I think you're seeing these kids are in high school knowing they're going to an SEC program. So they're knocking out their classes at a quicker pace to allow them to graduate in December, be enrolled, and get a jump start on spring football. And one thing I've definitely noticed more of is the amount of players that are able to reclassify from one class to the next, like you saw with Ryan Williams. I feel like that's happening with maybe a 20th of your average football player you see these days. It's happening way more than I remember. The first time I remember it happening was when we got Austin Wilder to reclassify for basketball. He showed up out of nowhere in December, I remember. Ever since then, it seems like it happens all the time.
What's crazy to me is I didn't even know that was an option. Like rewind back when we were in high school, like what I wouldn't have given to just graduated early, even if it was just 5 months early and just play video games all day.
Yeah,
Just
the difference there is these guys have an incredibly bright future at something involving athletics. We didn't have that available to us.
no, absolutely not. I bet just the idea of lying to myself and saying, "Man, I can get out of high school early and I'm going to do something like productive and just life changing," and just not doing it at all, but just not having to like wake up early in the morning and go to school. That would have been pretty cool. So, yeah,
I don't,
at
I
least
don't
they
know,
have.
man. I feel like these kids are missing out on a lot of important life moments by missing that last semester of high school. I mean, I had the time of my life the end of my senior year, the summer of my senior year. I couldn't imagine skipping out on that.
Yeah, but let's go back to what you said too. There, I mean, the prospect of NIL money that
Yeah,
might
I mean
have.
that makes the
Yeah.
difference. Yeah, when you're a high level athlete, they're not living the same life that we were living. So
Yeah, no, I mean Carson Beck just bought a Lamborghini, so like, we didn't quite, we're over here just like trying to save up some money to buy some subs. So little bit
yeah,
different life that we're living. So let's transition here a little bit. And before we talk about kind of what is happening in this limbo period of spring practice, I should say before spring practice, what the coaches are doing, the dead period, just the office of off season as far as football goes, just the furthest we are, the ultimate void from kickoff in September. Want to give a little shout out to a little project that we've got going on here. So, did a GoFundMe page here. So, we are doing a project called Feed the Jungle and Beat Cancer. So what's going to happen here? We are raising some money. We did this a few years ago, raising some money for the Auburn students. You probably saw all the stuff for the Alabama game, that massive line, the kids that are out there like super, super early for the game, just getting hyped up. Well, they're doing the thing in line. What we're trying to do is raise some money. We're going to feed them. We're going to give them some quality of life items, some hand warmers, blankets, snacks, energy drinks, water, coffee, whatever they need to get through that trek of getting in the line for the Kentucky game next Saturday. Now, a few years ago, we did that, raised way more money than possibly intended to feed them. And we said, you know what? Let's just donate this all to Outlive. help the fight against cancer, and that's just what we did. So we're trying to run that back again. So anybody out there who's listening to the show, if you're able, check it out on social media. You can find it on the @AuburnMemes Twitter page. If you don't have Twitter, there's a link to the GoFundMe in the Auburn Memes Instagram page. Raising some money there. The goal is $15,000. Now, originally put the goal as $5,000. I said, you know what? I hit the one and made it happen. I said, so far we put it out this afternoon. We raised about $500, so puts about $14,500. It's a lofty goal, but I really think we can all hit it. Like I said, we're going to take a small fraction of this money, donate it to buy some food, and we're hoping we'll have thousands of dollars left over, and we can just donate that to Outlive. Check out what all they're doing. That is Bruce Pearl's foundation that donates and helps a bunch of organizations that do work to fight the awful fight with cancer. And cool thing for the students, hyping up basketball. I've already talked to some people with Outlive, and they are totally on board with this. We got some projects in place. We got some business lined up. We've already talked to some folks from the Jungle organization as well, and they're getting the students hyped up. So long story short, really awesome project trying to work on here, doing it for the students, and of course, doing it for the big picture, and that is to fight cancer. So guys, if you are able, we'll also put a link to that GoFundMe down here in the show bio. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll get it on the podcast as well. If you have any money to spare, please donate to that. And like I said, it's going to go to a really awesome cause. So, yeah, if anybody can, thank you all for doing that. Let's move on here. The calm before the storm, Pat. Do you know the date when spring practice starts?
I don't know if they've announced the official date yet. I think they wait kind of last minute to do that. Generally, Auburn starts a little earlier than a lot of schools, it seems. So I would expect we would start spring practice very late February or the first week of March. I think that's usually the kind of timeline we're looking at.
So just a ballpark out there. We're probably at least 3.5 weeks away from that.
Right.
So what are the players doing right now, and what are the coaches doing right now in this window between spring practice and just the ultimate void that is just the epitome of the offseason?
Well, I know in January, the big thing is the winter workouts, which is really where coaches kind of separate the wheat from the chaff, where they see who's really willing to put in the effort on the new guys on the team, and maybe some players that have been backups and haven't gotten their chance to shine yet. They're looking for them to really put in some A+ effort into showing they're ready for a starting position. So that's the big thing going on with the football team right now. At least it was in January. I don't know if they're still doing it. Are those really intense winter workouts you always see videos of from the social media accounts and all that?
And I'm assuming, too, that's going to mean the team dietitians are meeting with various guys, getting weights up or down, body fat, muscle mass, all the super, super technical things that the dietitians do. And I think that would be a really cool episode content to do, would be get a dietitian on. Because I've spoken with some dietitians at other schools, not Auburn, and just the sports science that goes into just every single calorie and every single breakdown of every item in the nutrition chart, vitamins, all that stuff that they have to get these guys right. Their diets are so engineered to just make them just Herculean machines when they go out to play football. And speaking of Herculean machines, I choose that word very wisely. Were you able to see Eugene Asante on television at the Auburn basketball game last night?
I saw a clip of him. I saw he was jawing or
he was him being shirtless.
Oh, no, they didn't show that on the broadcast, I don't think. I missed that if they did.
Yeah, so he was just looking like the Hulk, Hercules statue, whatever you want to call it. I mean, just absolutely shredded, had the 8-pack out. Like, definitely made me, like, I'm looking at that, like, and I'm kind of looking down, like, dang, this stinks.
Sounds like it left an impression on you.
He did. He absolutely did. I mean, if you saw Eugene Asante shirtless, you'd be like, all right, you go lift some weights now. He was just in the student section. And normally, like, with Dylan Cardwell and Bruce Pearl, guys, like, the shirt comes off, like, late in the game. I mean, I'm talking within the first 5 minutes, the shirt was off. That was the kind of energy.
You had your camera out ready to go?
I might have gotten some pictures of it.
I bet you did.
Not gonna say I did or didn't. Just maybe. Oh yeah, front row of the student section. Who's over there with Jarquez? The fifth member of the Freeze Five, Dylan Gentry's next to him. So
the vaunted fifth member.
Yeah, the true fifth member of the Freeze Five. He was there. He was supporting it. Walker White's there. And talk about guys that have been doing some working out. Walker White is massive.
Yeah, when I first saw pictures of him before he was even an Auburn commit, I remember texting a buddy saying, "There's no way this kid is in high school."
So I walked next to him, and I stayed about 6'2". I'm about 210, 215 if I'm sucking in real good. 220 if I had Chick-fil-A. So
Yeah, I'm about 6'2" as well.
that's right. And Walker White easily, because a lot of these guys they lie on the height on the website. Walker White easily had an inch or two on me. Maybe it was I was picking up like he was walking out, and that's not to mention the fact that his arms, chest. I mean, once again, not going to go as hard with the as shredded as Eugene Azante. It produced pretty ripped, built like an SEC quarterback that I would say was a junior if
Yeah,
I saw him.
physically, he's ready to go.
Yeah.
Obviously, quarterback, it matters way more for the mental aspect for a quarterback, but he's not going to have an issue if he's got the mental part down. We don't have to worry about the physical part.
Yeah, and that's like I said, I walked right by him last night at that game, and yeah, I mean he is built beyond his age from, like you said, a physicality standpoint, and that's really good because let's go back to the whole point of this deal. We want this to be as open as a quarterback competition as it can be, and I was really bullish prior that maybe he'll end up redshirting because most of the time you redshirt when you're a true freshman for the physical reasons. You're waiting for your body to grow. You're still 17, 18 years old. You're building and growing into what it takes to compete at the SEC level. And as you said, like he I'm not at practice, but he might just be ready to go. So really interesting there. Excited to see them get it hyped up. Like I said, Eugene, Dylan, and Walker, the pillars of Auburn football. And excited to see them there. Oh, Joe West too. All four of
I'm
them.
sure
Excited to
if,
see.
if Dylan was there, Cam Coleman had to have been there.
I did not see Cam. Not saying he wasn't there. I didn't notice him.
That'd be the first time I ever saw Dylan Gentry somewhere where he wasn't standing right next to Cam Coleman.
I'll double check that. Like I said, I'll double check in those pictures. I might or might not have gotten to the two of them to see if Cam was around, but I didn't notice it. Now they kind of float in different sections, the student section. So Dylan might have been floating around just to say hey to his boy Eugene. But
He made it.
anyway,
He finally made another friend.
yeah, that's right. Now, last question before we transition here: what are the coaches doing right now? Because it's a dead period, right? They can't be calling anybody.
Yeah, so the big thing they're doing right now is getting what is formulating the game plan and strategy for what they envision Auburn to be in 2024, and
Mm-hmm.
they're getting that ready for spring practice. So they're really building the playbook and the scheme right now.
Okay.
Altogether, they've got a full coaching staff. That's what they're primarily doing right now.
So coaches are thinking with their head. They're looking. They're saying, "Hey, let's get a game plan for spring. Evaluate the roster." That's the move right now. And now, since obviously they don't have to worry with distraction of signing day, wasn't like they're having to do a whole lot of last minute recruiting. Now, obviously, that'll change immensely once the portal opens back up after spring. So
Well, there will
hopefully,
be. I think there's going to be less players we have to worry trying to get this time around. So we shouldn't have.
it's
They
not a,
shouldn't have to invest as much time and energy in making sure the roster can actually win an SEC game this year.
not a bad problem to have. And you know what? It looked like Hugh Freeze was down golfing. So
That is what he does.
he does. Tommy Tuberville likes duck hunting. Is that correct?
And golfing.
Did he like golfing or duck hunting more?
Probably duck hunting, but it's a little bit easier to go golfing.
Right, because he had to go to Arkansas to do that.
Yeah.
And let's rewind to the OGs that have been following recruiting for 20 years.
That's talk about bringing back some bad memories.
Mm-hmm.
Tuberville going duck hunting on signing day. That's really what put the nail in his coffin. Kind of like Harsin going to Cozumel.
Yeah, so if there's any old heads out here that followed recruiting for 20 plus years, that's really that's probably closer to 15 to 18 for that period. But yeah, that definitely brought back some tough memories. So sorry to go there. But luckily,
when Saban's bringing in the greatest recruiting class in history up to that point, and you look at your school and Tuberville's been duck hunting all weekend. You knew it was getting close to the end at that point.
yeah, Tuberville's holding up some ducks. Yeah, it's a rough. That was a. I don't want to go back to that place, but he's gone now. So speaking of, what do you think about him being on game day? You're gonna be excited when Saban's there on game day in Auburn.
Yeah, I think
The
Saban's going
Iron
to be good
Bowl.
on it. I think he's going to be good on game day. I personally like Nick Saban. I didn't like him when he first came to Alabama because I was a teenager and I was mad that our run of dominance had come to an end. And he's obviously Alabama's head coach, so there's a certain level of disdain you're always going to have for him. But if he wasn't Alabama's head coach, I don't imagine how you couldn't like the guy. He's got a funny, dry sense of humor. He's an engaging personality. Obviously, all the players he's brought in over the years. So I think he's going to kill it on game day.
I think he's gotten better as he's gotten older. You kind of remember some of those early days in the late Tuberville, early Chiswick. Like he was kind of, we're going to say this very nicely, but abrasive.
He was, but I mean, let's be honest. We were taking the brunt of his stardom. We kind of got the everybody was watching the ascension, and we were the stepping stool he used to start that ascension. So we have more reason to dislike him than a lot of other people do.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's good. We'll see. We'll see. It does. I can't wait for. I can't wait for the first Iron Bowl he does game day at, and just see what his prediction is. Especially if it, let's just say, like it legitimately is one where like Auburn is massively favored in the game.
I mean, he'll never pick Auburn. He's never going to pick Auburn in Iron Bowl. I don't care if there's a complete flip flop and we dominate Alabama for the next 5 years again. It won't matter. Saban's going to pick Alabama.
So Alabama's playing for a bowl game. Auburn has already locked in the SEC. He's picking Alabama.
Yes, I don't know what you want to bet or what you want me to do if Saban ever picks Auburn over Alabama, but we can discuss it and we'll promise that I do it.
Well, so here's okay. So Saban picks Auburn on game day to beat Alabama. That's probably going to make a lot of the Alabama fans need to go to
the Opelika or Birmingham Rage Room.
Right. There's a lot more. There's a lot more Bama folks in the Birmingham area. So if that were to happen, probably a good spike in business there.
I don't know. Have you ever been to Opelika?
Well, I'm saying the general population. There's a percentage in Opelika that's probably higher. My brother always called those the Lee County Bama fans. So for any of those folks out there, if it ever does happen, make sure to tell them when you go that you heard about it on the Auburn Daily Show. I don't know if there's a lot of Alabama fan listeners out there, so I guess that doesn't have to be the exact scenario. If you're an Auburn fan and have any reason to go to the region, like maybe it's like a birthday, maybe it's day night. It is Valentine's Day coming up. A lot of heartbreak out there. Yeah, you got divorces, cheaters, all the bad things. You know what? That's a good reason to go to a rage room. Heartbreak. Let's go break stuff, not break hearts. Go tell them that the Auburn Daily Show sent you there. They'll get you a bucket of free stuff. Just got to mention it at the desk. Hey, I heard we get some free stuff because I heard about this on the Auburn Daily Show. Whether you're in the Opelika area, go to the Opelika Rage Room. OpelikaRageRoom.com. You can also find them on the handle on social medias. Check out what they're all about if you're not familiar. Same deal if you're the Birmingham Rage Room. Do the thing. Go there, check them out, break some stuff, have a good time. It's kind of like I said, there's not a whole lot going on this year, so need something to do. There's just
Hey, I've got an important question.
Yeah.
Do you think the Rage Room plays Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit while they're breaking stuff?
That would be a huge missed opportunity if you don't. You get the player music of the Rage Room. Forget to mention that. So yeah, if you're listening, add it to the Rage Room playlist. That is definitely the way to go. So go check them out. Tell them the Auburn Daily Show sent you. I want to thank them as always for being another show sponsor. So let's wrap this on up, Pat, here. Auburn basketball is in the front seat once again after two great performances against Ole Miss and a awesome home comeback against Alabama that the Gumps are just still reeling in that one, despite
you know what that means.
What's that mean?
Lost in Gainesville Saturday. I'm just kidding.
So,
you continue.
No, I mean it's okay. It has to be brought up. Auburn and Gainesville, Gainesville to Auburn basketball is Baton Rouge to Auburn football. It is just the monkey on their back that they cannot get off. Do not look up the stats of that. It is bad.
I don't remember what the specific stat was, but I heard it maybe a week ago, and I was shocked. I had no clue it was like that.
Yeah, it is brutal. I'm going to pull it up real quick here. I'll see if I can get it. So tell me, while you're ad-lib for me on the Bama game, tell me your thoughts on the Bama game. I'll pull the stat up real quick.
I was about to say, I went negative Nelly there for no reason, but this week was an incredible week of basketball for Auburn. Big win on Saturday night against Ole Miss, followed up with an even bigger win at home against Alabama. I think it's got to be by far the best one of the year, quad one wise, right? I mean, Alabama's going to be a quad one win no matter what, I would think.
Yeah,
So,
that's the highest. Yeah, that's the highest because Alabama's still top 10 in the net.
yeah, I
So
saw Joe Lenardi still got them as a 3 seed and us as a 4 seed.
Joe,
That
yeah,
kind of blew
Joe
my mind.
Lenardi today actually moved them higher after getting
That's wild.
steamrolled by Auburn, which is just like he has
Fixes it.
always
Yes,
been bullish on
Saban.
Alabama.
See, I told you, Saban got the ESPN, and Lenardi's already knocking him up a peg.
Yeah. Okay, so it looks like Auburn. I'm gonna just double check this at a glance. It looks like Auburn hasn't won in Gainesville. Take a guess at the year.
I heard a stat that we hadn't beaten Florida in some capacity since 1996.
That is the year. That is correct. That's the last time
Yeah,
Auburn has won in Gainesville. Now, granted, asterisks on that. Florida was really good in the 2000s, and Auburn was definitely tampering down in the 2000s, especially the 2010s prior to Bruce.
yeah.
So they had a losing streak. They got one on Florida. So this is wild. From 2001 to 2018, 17-18 season, Auburn only beat Florida one time, and that was in Tampa. So
Good
I'm
lord.
guessing that was probably an SEC tournament.
So we
Okay.
legitimately have not won a game in Gainesville in almost 30 years.
1996, that is correct.
How often don't we play there every other year?
Uh yeah.
That's embarrassing. We gotta fix that.
Yeah, so they it's a yeah, it's a brutal because they do the thing where it's every other year, then it alternates. So kind of so
Yeah.
it's a weird pattern in basketball. But yeah, they've played plenty of times in Gainesville for them to have some chances there. So Auburn has kind of been going back and forth with them since Bruce has dialed things up here, but they always seem to kind of trip on Florida. Even at home, they lost to him that one year. So Florida's kind of had Florida hasn't been dominant in basketball in a little while, obviously, since the sick run they had in the late 2000s.
Yeah.
But they Auburn has definitely not done good. Now, it's interesting because Todd Golden was a former assistant of Bruce's, so there's kind of a little bit of history between the two of them, a lot of mutual respect.
Yeah,
Believe it or
I
not,
knew a lot of Auburn people wanted him to come back to Auburn when Bruce retires. So I assume that's out the window now. But
I don't want to think about that.
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, sad times. But believe it or not, Auburn actually barely wins the series all time with Florida, 86 wins and 80 losses.
Wow.
So
Okay.
despite some tough recent luck against the Gators, Auburn still barely up on them from a lot of wins back in the day. So as far as the SEC outlook looks, Auburn after the win for Alabama, there's kind of a weird tie situation for first
Yeah,
place.
it's a 4-way tie at the top, right?
So it's kind of weird. So Tennessee had the bye week or something going on there, so they've only got 7 SEC games, but they've only had 2 losses. Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina also 2 losses. They got 8 wins. Auburn and Alabama have now split the series. It's a weird little situation going on. Now, obviously, that'll fix itself out here really soon. And then down to 4 losses is Kentucky, so there's another jump there. So you want to build a gap. You want to build as much as a gap between you and the next person. So it's going to be an interesting deal. Now, South Carolina does have the best overall record of 20-3. Auburn is 19-4. Alabama 16-7. Tennessee 17-5. But they're still at the top. They're still in the hunt. They still control their own destiny. But with that game against Florida, it'd be huge if they can win that. And I mean, it's a gauntlet. You got Florida away, and Florida's just right below Kentucky. So Florida is top half of the SEC. South Carolina came out of nowhere. I don't know how anybody had that as a ranked matchup on their bingo card before the season started.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, I mean, Auburn is defending a pretty solid home winning streak that you don't want to give up.
I'll
And
say
there's
outside of just the wins that we've been getting, I think the thing that's got me most excited about Auburn basketball is it seems like we've kind of settled on the 5 best players to kind of
yeah,
close games out, and where you've got Trey and Denver and CBM, J Will and Broom. I really love that 5 combo right there.
yeah, it's been working. And then, but the good news is too, when they do switch it out, there's not this massive drop off like you
Right.
saw last year if any of them were out. If Dillon comes in for a little bit, it's not just like oh they're just dominating under the rim.
KD has
Same
the
thing.
ability to really boost you up when he's having a on game. So
Yeah, if KD's on fire, he can go there. A lot of good pieces that can move around to pivot for a lot of different situations, and that's just obviously not what they had last year. And Broom is playing insane. I mean, you're seeing more stats of his compared to like
yeah,
Shaq. I mean, it's absolutely. And I'm telling people right now, just go ahead and just enjoy every moment of watching him play. The dude is scoring at an insane clip. I was putting some stats out about this. But if you look at your top scores in the SEC, he was 8 before last night's game, obviously adding 24 to his 15.9 average, I think it was. It's probably bumped him up even further. So he might have even gone up a little bit more. I'm not exactly sure. Let me see if I can look that up real quick. But for him being a big man, it's a bunch of guards.
yeah. I was thinking about
And
this the other night. If I know who the better prospect was, but who is the better college player in your opinion between Broom and Walker Kessler?
yes, I think about that. I do think about it, and I kind of wonder. Okay, so let me let me jump over here in the SEC. Broom has now. Hold on, that was I did SEC. Let me go to national. Sorry, I think if I'm picking right now, I might be picking Broom just because he has
Yeah,
more versatility. Now, defensively, Walker, the way he could block, especially with his left hand,
yeah,
was just that was crazy. And they formed the defense to basically funnel to Walker.
yeah. I mean, I I know less about far less about basketball than I do football, but it just feels like to me we're watching a possibly an all-time Auburn basketball player in Janai Broom right now.
I agree. I think it kind of snuck up on everybody. I don't think everybody like I think we're gonna realize it looking back. And I think we're just gonna kind of blink and be like, holy smokes, we had this dude. And like, did we did we really take the time to like appreciate like, oh, here he is? Yeah, no, it is. We're gonna miss him a lot. I agree with you. I think he might be an all timer. I think he might. I think he is. I think it's safe to say after 2 years, an all timer, and just the versatility and especially the scoring you can get out of him being a big,
Yep.
you
He'll
take
he'll
it. But
knock down a three. He'll knock down a three when he's open.
yeah, no, he's been hitting those threes. His season percentage for three is going to be. I just looked it up. Broom he's bumped up to the 7th leading scorer in the SEC right now.
Okay.
So and it's all surrounded by like guards. So
Yeah.
it's just and him being a big and the crazy part is all these guys are playing 30 plus minutes a game and his average is like 24. So if you do like a point per minute, it is even more crazy. Just how efficient he is in the minutes he's playing. So yeah, no, it is absolutely and of course, it gets the competition. It's not like he's playing in the Pinecone Conference over here. I mean, SEC basketball, I'm missing them already. I'm just gonna put it that way.
We got to cherish him for the next 2 months.
Yeah, Auburn fans out there, and it's just like you kind of sit there and you're like, oh my gosh, like how are they going to replace him? But I'm also like, you know what? Like they did it with Walker Kessler, and they got somebody who you can actually make a fair argument, maybe is better, kind of all things.
Right. I'm kind of I'm looking forward to Cardwell if he comes back for a fifth year, kind of getting his time in the limelight next year.
Yeah, I do too, and I hope he sticks around for obviously with the portal and graduation. You never know, guys might can always make different moves. But Broom, his 3-point shooting percentage is 33.3. So just like perfect average this season. But out of a big, you absolutely take it.
Yeah, that's good for
And
a center.
and they've gotten better as we've gone into SEC play. It's kind of the opposite of what happened with Cambridge. Still,
Hmm.
ugh, still thinking about that, where he was just absolutely bricking them when it came to SEC play, and against lesser opponents, he was okay. But yeah, Brooms have gotten more efficient. Teams are stupid enough to leave him open, and he's making a punishment. And those are just dagger threes too, just perfectly timed, right when you need them. So, yeah, they are absolutely on fire. And if they can do the thing against Florida, I think, just hear me out here. I think if they can win the next three, I think it is almost about near sheer fire thing they're going to win the SEC. If you can
I
beat
don't.
Florida, South Carolina, and Kentucky,
I would like our chances, but I feel like there's so much still left to happen that it's tough to make go out on a limb like that for me.
well, you feel the most confident you're probably going to lose at Tennessee. I think a lot of people are writing that one off to where you're probably going to
I don't.
drop
Not
that one.
me. We own Tennessee.
That's going to be a tough one. Tennessee is not bad this year.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and tell you right now. Auburn is beating Tennessee, and I
Okay.
don't know any. I haven't watched much Tennessee basketball. I just know Bruce Pearl owns Tennessee.
All right. Let me ask you this here. This will be the last thing we do before we wrap the show up. The remainder of Auburn's basketball schedule. Do you have it pulled up in front of you?
No.
Yeah, get it pulled up real quick. What do you think? How many games, and if you can get specific, which ones do you think they lose? Out of, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 left.
I don't think we lose a home game. I could see us losing to Florida this weekend, Georgia on the road. Those are the two probably that I feel that would probably mean.
So I'm going to go the opposite. I think they beat Florida this weekend, even though it's really close. And I definitely see them losing to Tennessee.
Nope, we own them.
That's got me, that's got me nervous. And
I
I
ain't
think
scared.
they lose one more. And I'm either going to say South Carolina, Kentucky, or Georgia. I think you lose Tennessee and then one of those three.
I got to see us lose a home game for me to believe it.
And I mean, they are on fire at home, and I agree with you. I'm just trying to be a little contrarian to it. But I think there's, out of these 8 games, I think they go 6-2. I think there's 2 losses sitting there somewhere. Luckily, Missouri on the road. I mean, I don't think Missouri's won an SEC game yet. I think by that time that team is going to be so checked out. That is going to be a scorcher for Auburn. It's either going to be Auburn beats them by 50, or it's one of those deals where like Missouri is just in their last breath, they just try to do something crazy because they've got nothing else to do. So hopefully it's not like that, and they're just let's just get the offseason and fire coaches, transfer, whatever those guys are going to do, because that's going to be they'll definitely be a solid 14 seed in the SEC tournament. And then, of course, you end the season with Georgia at home. So they're on fire. It's exciting. It's going to make March really exciting. I'm sure, God, we'll see what old Joe Lunardi ends up seeding Auburn if they do go 6-2, or heck, 8-0. You might still have it a 4 seed. Who knows? But yeah, Pat, that's going to wrap us up for the episode. Surviving the offseason. Want to thank everybody for listening. Support the Auburn Daily Show. So check out everything they got going on auburndaily.com. Awesome stuff there right now. Tons of good content. Lots going on. If it's happening, they're not missing it. You can get it there. Top Button Podcast, Charlie 5, every Tuesday, Thursday. Got one yesterday. A lot more recap of the Bama game there. The Bama game was awesome. Absolutely stomped. I'm going to talk a lot about there because, like I said, we got it yesterday. We'll be back at you next week. And, of course, like I said, one more shout out if you can. Feed the Jungle and Beat Cancer. Donation link for the GoFundMe in the episode description. If you can't help out that, it'll be awesome. Help the students get fed. And, of course, most importantly, help the fight against cancer. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We will be at you again next time. And, as always, Pat, thanks for joining the show.